I want to welcome our fabulous panel, and you're probably wondering why there's 6 of us here today. Well, this is our panel of artists who've gone through Art Success Masters, and they have had great success in their own individual journeys as an artist. And so you're going to be getting to know each one of these artists today. So I want to thank all of you guys for being here today on the panel. Who would like to volunteer and talk about their struggles before they enrolled in Art Success Masters?
So I guess one struggle that a lot of us have in common is this sort of fear and procrastination. So, if you're in that place that I was back then of you hardly ever make art, you have this immense pressure of like, oh, this like one bit of artwork that you want to do. It has to be a masterpiece. So there's this like immense pressure. Of course, later on, when you're making artwork every day, that pressure diminishes. And, if it's not so good, one piece, you go on to the next one. But back when you're kind of stuck, it's really hard to get that momentum going. And one thing that I've really been reflecting on recently is, I didn't realize it at the time, but being on your own and not having a community or a group of artists around you, it's so hard anyway, but to not have people in a similar position that you can connect with and you get support from and you can just chat with and interact, you're in this kind of echo chamber of fear and self-doubt. And just having the sounding board with you, Pam, as teacher, mentor, but also with fellow artists, like-minded people in the same position, it's like gold dust. That's probably my main struggle.
Well, thank you, Rob, for sharing that. Yeah, that's really amazing. I think we can all relate to that echo chamber. And gosh, being an artist is like, you're so lonely in a way, right? Anybody else want to share their struggle that they might have had? Sue?
I would like to share mine, please.
Yes, okay.
I started this in 2018, so I'm a relatively new artist. And I have taken several courses, really, 3-month-long courses, really, really good courses on the internet. And I just could not connect with putting it all together, and B, as we would go through trying to understand what we loved about our art, I could not, people kept talking about emotions and painting what they love. And I kept thinking I was supposed to be painting emotions for people or for things. And I just could not get it connected together until, and even though I have done something like part of our ASM course is Discover Your Soul. Well, Pam, when we started this with Pam, all of a sudden, it hit me. She helped me realize that the way I dress, the shape of my glasses, the color of my glasses, the way my house is designed, those are things I love. That is love. And so that freed me to think it's okay to paint shapes and to love shapes. It doesn't have to have something to do with an emotion for a person or a dog or a place or a grief. So that to me was very, very releasing.
Thank you so much, Sue. That is just amazing. And I just love how your glasses are, and you are like, you're part of your painting. That is just incredible. Anybody else like to share?
I'll jump in for a minute here.
Cynthia.
I totally love what both people have just said here, Rob and Sue. Totally agree. I think for me, a lot of the procrastination related to not understanding the importance of play in actually the creative process. And one of the things I'm forever grateful for the ASM classes is we did so much to really reinforce the idea of approaching your painting in a playful way where you're not judging, you're not critiquing it. At that point, you're just moving. And I found that to be enormously helpful in overcoming the procrastination because I wanted to get down to my studio. It was fun. And the second part was really trying to figure out how to finish my paintings. That was huge. It continues to be a problem now and then, but I feel like ASM has given me a lot of tools for how to critique my own paintings and know what's missing and what to do next. So I'm really grateful for that.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Cynthia. Anybody else? Amy, raising your hand there.
Hi, everybody. So I was keen to do abstract, non-representational painting for years, but I didn't know how to start. And I would ask artists, how can I start? What do I do? How do you do that? And I got no answers at all until I got into the ASM. And my frustration was alleviated because Pam gave us a process and gave us tools that enabled me to start painting non-representationally. And what a relief that was, and what joy. So that was my main struggle before starting this course.
Wow, that's cool. Okay. Anyone else? Lisa, did you have any struggles at all?
Well, absolutely.
Did you? Okay. You want to share just a couple?
Well, I liked to finish my paintings in one setting. So I wouldn't necessarily explore all the things that needed exploring. And some of them were great, right? You know, it does happen sometimes. But if I couldn't finish it in one setting, I couldn't go back to it. So I did have a lot of paintings that weren't finished because I just couldn't figure out how to go back into them and do it.
That's amazing. I can relate to that one too.
Yeah,
guys. And I mean, so I created this course, you know, Art Success Masters. And the reason I created this 4-step roadmap to master your art is because I myself struggled probably more than, from what I've heard from you guys. I mean, those are struggles. But let me just say, I think I trump all of you guys when it comes to struggles. I've had so many struggles, and it's one of those things where you don't always understand why something is so hard. And so my 4-step roadmap, just so that you guys have some understanding of where it came from, that was my map of survival. Like, I don't even have that much of a left brain. At least I don't think I do. But I just knew that when I walked into my studio, it was like, oh my gosh, that feeling, it has to be a masterpiece, number one. Or that blank canvas, what am I going to start with? I didn't know how to do that. I got stuck constantly. I had like hits and misses as far as like paintings that I loved, and then paintings that were like horrible, and then they didn't get finished. So all of those things that you guys mentioned, the feeling of loneliness, and not like I had 16 personalities, all those things plagued me until I created this 4-step roadmap. And so now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to kind of break down that 4-step roadmap, which again, if you go to that video, if you're not familiar with that 4-step roadmap video, it's an hour long. So you want to definitely give yourself an hour to watch that, because it's going to lay out this path that was my survival path. Now, what I didn't know was if I shared it with other people, would that work for them? So what we're going to do now is talk about step 1, which is probably continues to be one of the most difficult master classes of all 12 in this course. So if anyone wants to talk about master class 1, what it is all about is that connection between you, your life, and your art, which on the surface sounds so simple. Does anyone want to talk about like what they discovered in Discover Your Soul Masterclass 1?
I'll start this one. It's my very favorite, and my very favorite module for ASM. And I think because it's something you're going to do your whole life. It's something, if you're an artist, you are paying attention to life around you and feelings and events and other artists, and you're really paying attention. And for me, going through ASM, I really began to connect some of my background. Like, I have a background in music and playwriting and poetry, and I began to see that the lines that I really loved related directly to some of the rhythms, some of the suggestions of language, and those were really important to me. Some of the other things in my background, I began to understand there was a reason I loved curvilinear shapes that had like open, porous, soft borders where they seemed to dissolve or maybe about to reemerge. That kind of space in between, I just loved. It was really important to me. And the fact that I was feeling so much when I was going through the ASM class about just how crazy our society was at that point, given pandemic and politics and so on, that I craved calm. I needed calm, and I was really drawn more and more to compositions that had more open space, more negative space. And because of the design elements around composition and direction and rhythm, I really began to pull it together how exactly, through using the design elements, I could communicate that incredible urge for more calm. So very helpful.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much. And by the way, guys, Cynthia is going to be in my studio in just a little while, and she has put together basically a thesis. She's going to be ready to propose to museums by the end of this. I can tell you she's done her research, and it's pretty amazing. Okay, who else would like to talk about Discover Your Soul, and like what did you discover, and how did it help you to make a connection between your life and your art? Anybody else?
I can chime in, yeah.
All right, great, Rob. Go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, what I wanted to say, it's so fun to just, how often in life do you have an opportunity to like really delve into who are you, what you really love, what are you drawn to, and really, oh, what have I been drawn to my entire life without actually realizing it. But the other thing I wanted to say was, having done that first really important module, I realized how much it fits in with my kind of philosophy on life, which is really like crystallized and become clear to me as well, which is coming back to art and success. I believe personally that I'm here on this earth to, like, successful to me is to be the most authentic version of me. And so often in life, you're prevented from doing that. So I see art making as this opportunity to really explore who you really are, and then, you know, rather than internalizing it, really put it out into the world. So that's how I see art making, not as selling art, but just doing it for myself primarily. And yeah, that module is just this really rare chance to really take a deep dive into who am I really, and why do I do that, and why do I wear this color clothes or these glasses, or why is my furniture, you know, the style it is, just across the whole board. And the more you do it, the more you realize there's so much cross-pollination between your life and your art.
I want to add that I did an interview with Rob for the very first masterclass, as well as Cynthia. And Rob, what we found out about him was that he was like this, I don't want to say hoarder, but he did have like 10,000 photos. So I could just share that about you, Rob. And I mean, it was amazing to me that you actually went through all 10,000 and you actually then categorized them and you studied them. And you're like, well, wait a minute, there's all this geometry that keeps recurring, right? And there's all these like bicycle wheels that keep recurring. And like what I saw from your collection of photographs was like these continuous threads that kept popping up in your work. And it was just like such an inspiration to all of us. So yeah, anyone else want to say a few words about, okay, Sue?
Well, I spoke about this actually in the opening, but what I would like to say about this is that I was a perfectionist. I was a business person, and I was a furniture designer, and I had to please other people in my business. And I did that for 20 years. So when I started painting, I had a real hurdle of perfectionism to overcome, as well as painting only to please myself. And that was really, really hard for me, having been in business for so long and pleasing other people. So the way Pam handled this with us in the Discover Your Soul gave me permission to be myself. What she made me realize that what was coming out of me in my art was who I am. It was validated by the way she handled this, not only in this part of this Discover Your Soul, but even in our critiques, and they're not really critiques, they're help that she handled. There's a way that that this class is handled that you feel so safe. You feel like someone's supporting you, someone has your back. So Pam, thank you for giving me the permission for my art to be my art and not try to be like someone else wants their art to be.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. I do appreciate that. And yeah, it's a really big deal. I think a lot of us have felt that pressure to create art for somebody else, or that it has to be beautiful and that kind of thing. But in the end, what I think all of us are striving for is that authenticity. It's not easy to get there. I think that's what makes art so hard. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
I mean, I do think we have to look into that mirror. I like to call it the mirror of authenticity, that it's not about the world around us. It's looking inward. And that is the hardest work an artist will ever do. In fact, that may be harder than putting the paint on the canvas. So we spend a lot of time in Art Success Masters doing this. We have some members who spent literally a year, and they're still in there because they found that it's such a like ever-giving spring of resources that will feed their art for the rest of their lives. And that is how to keep our art going. The art will thrive if it is built on your life and your understanding of who you are. So now we're going to move on to the step 2 of my 4-step roadmap. The first one being, number 1, figure out who you are, what you're all about, what's your life about, and how do you, what do you want to say about your life in your art? Because that's what you have that's unique to give to the world. So now you've got these ideas. Well, you got to somehow take all that information and move it onto a painting, a 2D surface. How do you do that? Well, we have a toolkit, and it's called the Design Elements and Principles. We have abstract composition. Now, the design elements are not hard to understand. I mean, line, shape, color, texture, value, size, direction, right? Those words are simple, but yet as an artist, you have to put that stuff together and make sense of it. Like, look at the painting behind Sue and look at the painting behind me. They couldn't be more different because we as individuals are so different from each other. So how we choose to take those tools, that is the translation between your life and your art. So now I want to talk to all of you guys. We spent, 5 months focusing on each of these design elements, because let's face it, if you have an alphabet of 26 letters, you spend like your entire lifetime, right? Like working with the alphabet, and first you write that first sentence, first words. Well, in this case, we only have 7. So we spent a good amount of time with each individual element so we could really understand our relationship to it. So do any of you want to talk about what happened, the way that you made the connection between your life and your art once you understood what the potential of each element and how they interact with each other?
I'll say something.
Okay.
I had gotten emotionally in a slump, and the imposter syndrome going on. And so, I didn't really realize the connection until that happened. And one of our group in Australia got on a Zoom with me and said, okay, Lisa, you love the process. Not only do you love my line and color, those are my 2 favorite elements, but I just couldn't seem to do anything. I couldn't seem to paint. She said, the process. Remember, you love the process. And so we talked about it. What do you do? How do you start your painting? And so it's like she had to walk me through it, but I was able to actually do 2 paintings that day and almost complete them and of course she spent time with me on Zoom, but doing the process with color and line got me out of that slump. And so that's when I really realized the connection.
Cool. That's a great story. Anybody else want to talk about these 7 design elements? What happened? Yeah, Amy.
So the design elements was a revelation for me. And I'm so grateful that we spent time on each one, because I think that was very necessary to experiment and explore each one for a certain amount of time before we could start putting them together. And it all does go together eventually, but that was a very important process for me, and it did indeed give me the tools to start painting non-representationally. And so I have gone back again and again to some of those lessons, and once I got through those, then I was able to start looking at the compositions that were forming, and then I was able to begin editing them. So it really was a toolbox. It still is. It always will be. And I'm really grateful for the lessons on those design elements. Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, and I guess all of us feel that, we're all like, there's always more to learn, right? Like that's why the course is lifetime access, because we feel that while the course may be the constant, every time we go through it again, what we bring to it is our new selves, and we hope for growth in a whole year's time. That's a lot of time, but in the scheme of things, in a lifetime, that's really kind of a drop in the bucket. So if we can grow in a year and then go through the course again, grow some more, and just it's a one-time thing investment, I feel that that's the best way we learn, is to be able to repeat something. And that's how we are able to reinforce these things. Does anyone else just briefly want to talk about elements, or should we move on? We can certainly move on. Yes, Rob? Okay.
So one thing I've seen looking at other people in the group is this course is so comprehensive. This toolkit is all there in ASM, but you have to do the work. And what I've noticed again and again, the people in the course that work the most get the most out of it. Like lots of things in life, I suppose. But I guess that's my first point, that it does take dedication and work, like lots of things. And I also like this analogy you sometimes use about comparing painting to piano playing. Before you can be sort of this virtuoso pianist, you have to really sit down and do your scales and arpeggios. And I think that's what a lot of the exercises in the course are about. So it's kind of studies. And the more you do, the more you see these correlations. And it's like when you get to a certain stage and that momentum kicks in, you kind of have the control, just like in the piano playing, if you're really brilliant at scales after practicing, you have the control, but then suddenly at the same time, you have that freedom to break the rules and to play. And that's when all the magic starts happening. So it does take work, but it really pays off after a while.
Well, I'm really glad you pointed that out, because I hope you guys feel like going through ASM is some of the most intense work you've ever done. I mean, for me, I go that is because it's my roadmap. I'm constantly doing this, but I always feel like I'm a beginner, because every time I approach a new class, go through it again, I'm like, well, but wait a minute, I look at this with different glasses on now, because I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. And so you elevate, and now it becomes harder. And then you elevate again, and it becomes harder, right? Do you guys feel that way?
Yes.
I also feel, Pam, that one of the advantages of ASM is that it doesn't matter if you are just relatively new at art or are completely self-taught, or if you're somebody who has an MFA already. I do not have a background in art, at least not in the visual arts. So I really needed a lot of the design element work. And originally I did this in your other course, personal design, personal color. And it was wonderfully helpful to me. And by the time I got to ASM, I had done a lot of the work on, say, values, and had a whole new appreciation of what a difference changes in value make in a painting. And every time I added a value to the focal area and saw it pop, I got immediate reinforcement for doing that. And I really felt that in ASM, I could experiment more. I could take the exercises you provided, but I could also find my own. So I could play with composition in different ways. I could attack direction and texture in slightly different ways. So I loved the openness that the course offers, in addition to the order and the basic lessons in each of the design elements. I found it enormously helpful to be able to play. It helped me to play, to be able to experiment.
Yeah, I'd say, Cynthia, you're like a master of play. You make it look so easy, and for some people it's easy, and for other people it's like just a whole new concept, But play, I do think is one of the most important things of all. And so with that, guys, we're going to move on to the third part of this roadmap that I have put together. Again, I put it together for myself so I could survive, right? So that I could be an artist and not quit. That was my main reason for creating it. And I was just more than just really surprised and really grateful that it would work for other people. And so the third thing is, first of all, step one, you learn who you are and what you're all about, what makes you unique from everybody else on the planet. Number two, you got to have those elements. You have to understand design elements and principles because these are your alphabet. You're going to use this alphabet to write your narrative in paint. So the third part of it, step 3 in my roadmap is, well, now we got to do it. You got to create a series here, guys. And that's how you're going to find your voice, is to create a series of, say, 4 to 6 works or more. Some have done more. Some have done like 20 paintings. Some have done 6. Doesn't matter. But the point is that the more times you can create a series, you're going to see these underlying threads, right? That are like, yes, first of all, you're not going to call your series complete unless you're somewhat happy with it. And it doesn't have to be complete when you go the first time through this course. In fact, you might come through the course and say, you know what? That series sucks. But if it does, the good thing about that is that when something sucks, that's good, because it's where you don't want to go. And so everything you do in your studio is like, it's thumbs up, because whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's information. And we're here to make observations, And so does anyone want to talk about, well, first of all, we have a little slide presentation. So why don't we start with that? You guys have been like dying to see these artists' work. So let's just jump in and start with Sue White. And we're going to show her lovely work. Sue, tell us about your work here.
Well, this piece was a real shot in the arm for me. This is called Walk the Line. And with this piece, I was accepted as one of 30 artists in New Texas Talent at Craighead Green Art Gallery for 2023. That happened about a month ago. And since then, I have learned how to navigate Instagram. And now I've also made a video for them with music and sound. So you're never too old to learn, is the first thing I would like to say. This particular piece, it reflects some of my history, and that the big piece that you see, and that the background I wanted to have. One thing I will say here, and I'm afraid I won't get another chance to do it. When we're talking about our various 7 design elements, when we start working and critiquing our work, it is very important that there is a predominance within every one of those design elements that we feature in that painting. And no one has ever taught me that. So if you look at this piece and you look at the black and the white in the background, there is a predominance of black or white. Or if you're looking at my lines, there's going to be a predominance of a curvilinear line or a rectilinear line. This gives us a way to self-critique our work. It gives us a way to talk about our work. So this piece was about value. It was about lines and edges, and it was about shape. And when I finished this piece and it hung in the gallery, then if you notice the painting in the middle, you'll see that I have started. That is one of 3 more pieces that I have started on in this series that are in the studio with me now. And I'm using that and that color palette, even though this is a Zorn palette, which is black, white, red, and yellow. I will use those colors to begin with, but because of our episode or our section on color, I know how to take those colors and make more complex colors. These pieces I'm working on may be red, may be pink instead of red, but they will still be from that same palette. So this is the start of a 4-piece series. In it, I am expressing value, I'm expressing line, I'm expressing shape, and I am trying to take this piece down to the minimum amount of things I can have on the canvas and it still be a complete painting. I guess you might refer to it as post-minimalism, because minimalism was about mechanic looking art. This, I want you to see the hand in it. I want you to see the imperfection in it. If you look into the white and you look in the black, you can see where I have made mistakes and not totally covered them up, because my painting is about history and it's about imperfection, because it was hard for me to overcome perfection, as I've already stated.
Wow, that's awesome. And then let me just get on to the next. I think we're in the wrong way here. Let's see if I can move this. Here we go. Yeah, there's some more of your work.
Sure.
So-
This is an example. This is a series that I sent to Pam when I was wanting to graduate from ASM. And this is a series called Study in Umber. I don't usually paint in brown. Brown is not one of my favorite colors. I do love neutral colors, but I decided I like to challenge myself. So this particular series was about a monochromatic color palette, about shape and mark making. Every piece in this series has collage, it's a mixed media piece. It has collage, graphite, charcoal, acrylic. And as you look at the various pieces, you can see there's a varying amounts of elements in each piece until you get to the piece that on my screen is second in from the left. But it's the simple piece. The piece that's mainly brown with 3 shapes in it. That was the last piece I did, and I was having so much trouble with that piece because it was so chaotic. And I as I've stated, I have this interest in minimalism. I'm trying to get a piece down to the bare minimum things I can have on it, and it still represent what I want the piece of art to represent. So the 3 things that I loved in this piece were the 3 neutral colored ivory shapes in the upper right-hand corner. And those are actually pieces that were torn out of a book of E.S. Eliot poems. Oh. And as I looked at that, I thought, could I take this piece and take it down to the minimum? And how could I do it? And an artist named Mark Rothko popped into my mind. And Mark Rothko painted layer after layer after layer of color-filled colors. He used glaze after glaze after glaze. So this piece used to look like the other 3 pieces. But what I did, I started mixing glazes. A glaze is a transparent layer of paint. And each one of the glaze colors was different, but I kept going over and over this piece until I got where I wanted to be. If you were looking up close in the quiet conversation in the brown, you could see all kinds of different shapes in there. But as the way you're looking at it on the screen, you're seeing it from a distance, and you just see the brown and the natural, and you see that minimalistic look. So I was very pleased with the fact that I made myself do this and that I actually liked the results.
Yeah. When I see that second from the left, I just want to get in there really close and see what's going on in that other area. Like you said, that more quiet conversation, but lovely cohesion, and congratulations on graduating from ASM. That's awesome, Sue.
Thank you.
Hey. Okay, let's move on to the next. And now we've got Amy Whitehouse, and she's going to talk about her work.
Thank you, Pam. So this series was about 3 things: color, shape, and breathing space. I took 3 colors plus black and white and mixed them to make some complex, sophisticated colors. So that was one area of experimentation. And then I wanted to try different shapes and some lines, some mark making, and see how those shapes and marks would interact with each other, would connect with each other, and what that would say to someone, mostly what it would say to me. And then finally, it's very important to me to have some areas of rest for the viewer. So there are the parts where there is interest and you might look carefully and see the lines, but then you need to take a rest and go to those spaces that are not empty, but important. So that's what this series is about. And I particularly love doing a series because I feel that it is a way to explore a particular palette. And I can go from one to another and back to the first one and be working on all of them at the same time, a little bit here, a little bit there. And that gives me fresh eyes every time I go back to one of the paintings.
So Amy, yes, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but as you look toward the next year in ASM and you're going to do another series, does this one, like, tell you to like branch off and do another related series, or are you thinking of like a completely different one?
Something completely different.
Fun.
So yes, I'm still forming what that's going to be, but it's fun to think about what it will be. And yes, something very different.
Awesome. Congratulations on graduating. We're really happy for you.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay, now we have Cynthia Lee.
Yes. This actually is a nearby art museum, and I had a show scheduled for the fall of what became the pandemic, the first pandemic year. So I didn't have the show. And then when I was approached again in 2022, I was given a very short time frame for when I could get all the art together to actually have it exhibited. So I found myself in this very interesting situation where I had old art that I still liked and that I could probably get some pieces back from collectors for the show, but I had new art that was moving in a very different direction. So my struggle was, okay, how am I going to do this in a way that makes these 30 paintings hang together in some kind of cohesive way? So I ended up identifying, first of all, the palette. I decided I can stay within a particular palette. Secondly, I realized that so many of my paintings have rectangular or circular shapes in them, or more recently, I had been playing with central composition, a radial composition. So I was thinking, well, that would work. And I happened to be flipping through an old sketchbook trying to get some additional ideas about theme. And I came across this wonderful phrase in Italian that I just loved called passeggiata. And it refers to the custom of walking around the plaza in the late afternoon, talking to people, greeting people. And so I thought, circling the square, that's it. So that became my title for the show, Circling the Square. And I wanted a lot of open space. I added my own poetry in places. The poems actually tied together some of my thinking around the theme. And it had a lot to do with impermanence and memory and aging and a number of things that were on my mind that I knew very well from the M1 Discover Your Soul module. I was pretty clear about what I was trying to express at this point. And I was thrilled with how it all came together. And I was doing the paintings. This was actually my series as I was going through the end of the ASM class coursework. And I thought, and it was very helpful for me to free me up and stay and play, move in a series to the next piece when that one stopped talking to me during any given session, and then put that one aside and move to a next one and look at some of the older paintings in a new way and see which design elements I might want to carry over or play with. So it was enormously helpful. I don't think I could have pulled together a solo show in a museum in a very short period of time if I had not been educated and armed with the skills from ASM, and I'm grateful to Pam for that. Totally.
Very kind of you, Cynthia. You're just an amazing artist, and your next exhibition is going to be super amazing. I can't wait to see how that all comes about. And now Lisa debates.
Well, I also submitted a series for graduation and named it the Celestial Series. And I did not paint them all together, though. I painted them over 2 years. And that's it. When I was getting ready to put these in a gallery that I'm a guest artist in, I was looking at all my paintings, and the one on the far right is the one I knew I wanted to be in there. And so I was kind of selecting what to go with those. And I just started looking and realizing that, that first one looks celestial to me, and, things being birthed in the heavenlies, and, wars being fought. And so all the others, I started seeing more things hidden up behind clouds and in the sky and in the heavenlies. And so that's what I see in each piece. And that's why it became the Celestial Series. And I'm just so grateful to Pam again, because I never would have put any of that together, and I never would have even painted these. So
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. You're so kind. Okay, and now we're going to move on to, if I can move the cursor. Okay, Rob Smales, Hamburg, Germany.
Hi, yeah. Yeah, really interesting listening to other people talk about their series. I guess the only thing I have to add is kind of what Amy and the others alluded to. It's really nice to set yourself parameters, and there's so much possibility when you're stood in front of a white canvas or several white canvases, and just to say, right, I'm just going to stick to this one palette, and if I get stuck on one, move on to the next one. I guess that's what happened on this slide in the top left-hand corner. So just giving yourself, you'd think intuitively, like moving the goalposts closer together would give you less opportunity, but in fact, it opens up much more freedom, I've found. And most of these are works. I was lucky enough to have an exhibition in London last December. As you can see, I jump around from abstract to figurative and kind of traverse the line between the two, which I'm happy with. And so much of what I learned in ASM helped that show come together. I think without ASM, I could never have done it. And again, it ties everything together from Discover Your Soul to all the toolkit, right through to getting into working in a series. The more you do, the more things start to click, and the jigsaw just becomes more and more complete, I think.
Wow, amazing show. Amazing work by all of you. I'm just like so thrilled. Like and also notice, guys, how different each artist's work is. Like it could not be more Cynthia or more Rob or more Lisa or Amy or Sue. It's like, you're not seeing artists who are trying to paint like me, which I think is funny anyways, because like I can't even paint like me. So I just am so proud of you guys. And yeah, these are like recent graduates here you're looking at, and we're going to be celebrating on Saturday. We're going to have an official graduation ceremony featuring each artist who's graduated. It's a 12-month journey, and then we're going to start all over again and hopefully reach new heights. Now we've gone through step one, which is finding yourself and discovering those things you love. The second step then is to look at those design elements and principles and, really, really spend time with that toolkit that that's the only thing you have. That's all that, Mark Rothko, that's all that Norman Rockwell, that's all that Van Gogh had. We all have the very same toolkit. It's what we do with it. The step three was working in a series, and look at how these artists have found their personal voice, and they're going to continue to raise the bar, which is what is so exciting. They're never going to be bored. They're never going to, sort of like say, well, I don't know what to do today. Far from it. They have so many ideas. It's incredible. Now, the last step, you just heard it. And I guess I didn't even realize it, but you just heard each artist talk about their work. How many of you would have frozen if I'd put you on the spot out there in the audience?
Oh.
Well, you guys just did it, so you're good. But like Lisa, you've won all these awards, and like think back 2 years ago. If you won an award and you have to go up to that podium and you're like microphone in front of you, how did you feel then versus now? Do you have like more confidence?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, and the more I talk about the paintings, the more I think about them, and the more I write about them. The writing for me is key. I've got to write about it. I've got to write about it more and more, each one again and again and again. And it just really makes such a difference, using the visual language of art that you've taught us how to use. And I never would have dreamt, the difference it made and the importance of it, of writing about it, talking about it, and having our community to write about it with and talk about it with, and not only my work, but to try to learn to talk about other people's work really helps too, because then that's like a whole nother dimension of it, so it really has made all the difference.
Awesome. So yeah, to recap that, you guys, the fourth step is to be able to not only paint great work that's totally you, but you got to like be able to have a few words to talk about it to the stranger sitting on the park bench, your old high school friend who's like, oh, what are you up to these days? And instead of having that, like, you know, during the headlights look, you're actually able to say, well, you know, I'm an abstract artist, and, you know, this is what I love about my art, and all that other stuff. You just heard each artist talk about their series of work so eloquently. They've got, like, what I call this visual language of art fluency, and each artist has their own kind of unique dialect, you know, like in Italy. If you're in Northern Italy, Southern Italy, Eastern or Western, there's a different dialect. And, you know, it can be a little bit, it's very personal. So the way Sue talked about her work is very different from what Rob had to say. But they had the words. They had the words. And, you know, you guys, it doesn't even matter, like, what your goal is. You know, you want to be able to talk about what you love and come across as somewhat knowledgeable. I think that's something we all want. But each of us has a different definition of success. And so, like, my definition for my own success is totally different from every other person's. For some of us, it's just getting into your studio and showing up. And if that's you, we celebrate that, right, Lisa? Like,
That's right.
a lot of, like, that was me not too long ago. I had way too much intimidation. So I had to congratulate myself and pat myself on the back just for showing up, you know? So with that, guys, we've covered everything. And that's, you know, thank you guys so much on the panel. We want to know if you have any questions out there for our panel. Feel free to pop it into chat, and Lisa will pin your comment if you have a question for any particular artist, or just a general question. We want to be able to answer it.
Yes, and Pam, I want to mention, a person was asking if you had a Facebook group or anything for questions about the class, the program.
Art Success Masters?
Yes, sorry.
It's okay. It's coffee time.
yeah, break time. So anyway, I had posted the link and there in the banners, and I didn't know if you had one planned, a Zoom for that, but I wanted to ask you since she was in the audience.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great question. For anybody who, like, has questions that they still would like to get answered, number one, please pop it in the chat, because we can answer a lot of things right now. Number two is that we will have a Zoom call. It's more geared toward answering questions for our membership group that is kind of goes hand in glove with Art Success Masters. For those of you who are in Art Success Masters or are considering joining it, just know that you have the option of adding to that course, which is independent study, go at your own pace. You know, a lot of people like to do that on their own. But if you want more support, more interaction, more live calls, this wonderful community, everybody on this panel, and like 700 artists who've tested this course for 2 years, you can add the pro membership that's available at checkout. Now, if you have a question, the best thing to do, Lisa popped it up there right there, support@artandsuccess.com. That will come directly to me. It gets ticketed, and I will not miss it. I do not like to miss emails, but I have to have a special email. Like, if you do the personal email, it might get lost in the 10,000 emails that we all get, you know, junk mail, spam, everything. However, this email is only for artandsuccess.com. It gets a ticket number assigned to it. And I look in there like 3 or 4 times a day. And I do believe in, you know, if you guys are to, say, join Art Success Masters, anything in my school, I want to be there for you. That is something that, like, it's not just joining a course and you're on your own. You know, I really want to be there to answer your questions. So, yeah, let's see here. So Burkana, there we go. Let's pin her comment. She said she just joined and it seems so juicy. I love that. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, there's a lot of juice in there. Anybody else have a question for me? Because this is the time for questions, guys. Don't be shy.
Looks like we do have some questions. Let's see, I'm just going from the bottom up. Julia wants to know, is the graduation viewing it? Can people view it? You know,
Like,
other people
publicly.
view it? Yeah.
Right. So that's a question that we've been tossing around. We want you guys who are graduating on this coming Saturday at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We gave you the Zoom link if you're in the pro membership. We have an event created. Now, that particular link, that Zoom link, you can share with your friends. with your family, because we want them to be able to celebrate with you. However, it's not a public event. It's kind of a closed group that we want to share to keep it more intimate and celebrate our artists. And we have at least 50 people, I think 50 of our pro members, 50 of our Art Success Masters artists who are graduating, and they get a certificate that I sign, and it's all very exciting. We're gonna have a big party afterwards. So
yeah, and it looks like Julia is in our group, so she definitely can watch it, and that'll help her gain momentum, get excited. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question from Linda Kane for Cynthia. Let's grab that one. Tell me how you incorporated your poems. I'm interested in concrete poetry.
That's a really lovely question. Actually, over time, I've learned that poetry really is an integral part of my creative process. I go back and forth between drafts of a poem. I start with a metaphor, back and forth with the poem as I'm doing paintings, until I finally get to the emotional truth of what I think I'm trying to express. And then I forget my left brain entirely. And I just trust that the goal, that what I'm trying to express is really in there, and it will show up in the paintings somehow. In terms of actually exhibiting them, I literally put poetry, type poems right next to, I think I had 9 altogether, into the poem, and some of them related to more than one piece. And the trick is, you don't try to describe a painting, and you don't make a painting that's going to try to explain a poem. They really are 2 different animals, but they have to speak to each other. So that would be my advice to you if you're thinking about mounting poetry or having it in an exhibit, to make sure that it's not just describing a painting. It's operating from that same well of inspiration that you're getting your paintings from.
Awesome. What a great answer. Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, I'm going to pin a question here from, let's see, Dominica, a pretty name. ASM course sounds and is amazing from what I can gather. Love it. But what if it's already overwhelming for some, even before we start? Would it be best to wait before? And you guys on the panel are more than welcome to jump in on that. But just remember, as the creator of the course, nobody could have been more overwhelmed than me. And this 4-step roadmap is really geared for the person who feels overwhelmed, because it breaks it down into little bite-sized chunks. Every lesson is pretty short, very doable. And you guys know on the panel that I encourage you guys to put in 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every other day, right? It's not about putting in 8 hours on one day for the rest of your life, because we don't function that way. Our lives don't even allow that. We have so many things going on. Yet all of us here on this panel are, really as full-time can be, with knowing that life happens, and we've got pets, we've got spouses and houses and gardens to take care of. So, yeah, Dominica, I would just say jump in, because you go at your own pace. There's no comparison to any other artist. This is your own journey. It's your own path, and each path is unique. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Pam, may I speak to that too? Because I have taken several other online courses. The wonderful and unique thing about this particular course is that it's laid out so that it takes a year if you are just sailing right through it. This course is available for a lifetime, so you do not have to hurry. You have plenty of time to follow your own way of working. If you want to spend, like someone did when we were going through, a year in the section 1 or masterclass 1 of this course, you can. And the fact that you have this for a lifetime is very unique, and it is take it. Don't be afraid. Take it. And I would recommend that you also join Pro, because it's such a safe place, and you will get wonderful feedback from the different artists in Pro. It's the first time that I have ever actually posted I've been in several groups. I have never posted, and I have never spoken up in any other group. So I'm just saying, this is a safe place. Come in and take your time and enjoy the crowd.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, we have an amazing community, you guys. And like Sue said, we have this Pro membership, which is optional. You don't have to add it. But if you like, some people are more social than others. Some people like to see other people's work and, be part of a big community. We're not that big either. We're not huge. We are global, But we love our group, and to me, it's my family, it's my happy place. So I know all of you guys on the panel really, really well. I know like so many of our members really well, and yeah. So thank you so much, Sue. Giovanna, yeah,
Can I just
go
add
ahead.
that as well? Because I think nobody's said it directly on this call so far, but it really is like a going at your own pace. That makes it unique as well. So going back to Dominica's question about feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah.
Even though that it's so comprehensive and there's a lot of content, it's quite unique in the sense that you can stop, pause, and then spend as much time as you possibly need on one particular thing. And as Sue also said, this aspect of it being for a lifetime. So we got all this, this happy event of graduation happening, but that's not the end point. That's only just a milestone on, this lifetime of art making. So,
Great way to put it. Yeah, I love that milestone, because that's what it is, guys. And we all need milestones and goals to work toward. But in art, at least in my group and in my life and in my studio, like I'm always trying to grow. Like I said, I'm always a beginner every time I start painting. And, I think a lot of you feel that way as well. And by the way, my definition of advanced artist is a person who knows how to play. Because play is at the heart of being advanced. If you tell me you're an advanced artist, I'm going to say, okay, show me how you play, right? That's the true test. Are you able to get new ideas and keep your work like active and exciting? That comes from play. Now, I saw a question here from a gal who was wondering, realistic. I'm going to pin this comment here because it's a great one. I paint exclusively realistic, and my theme is fantastic. Ooh, fantastic realism. Is the ASM right for me? Well, you guys on the panel, certainly we'd want to hear from you. My vantage point on that is Andrew Wyeth is a realistic painter, right? And we've got all these, Jackson Pollock, and we've got Norman Rockwell, who is highly realistic illustrator for the Saturday Evening Post. It doesn't matter what you paint or how you paint, because we all have the very same toolkit. And ASM is not about what to paint. It's just giving you the tools so that you can paint what you want to paint. And the worst thing of all would be if you thought ASM is about painting like me, for example. None of these artists on the panel paints like me. And I think you just need to see that. Now, we have some realistic artists in the group. We have some semi-realism, and we have, we don't have photorealism yet, but we have all different kinds of artists. So I say, it's about your toolkit. It's about you and we're here to support you, but there is no one right way to paint. Okay. Do you guys want to?
Could I just jump in on that? I think it's such an important point. One of the things I think that makes your ASM and Pro both so unique in the online art world is your support for different styles. There's such support for figuring out what you love, what's important to you, what shapes and lines and what design elements do you want to play with, and how are you going to put them together. Only you can do that. There's nobody else who's going to paint the way you are. There's no expectation that you have to do any kind of art in a certain way. And in fact, there's great support for how far can you take it to make it yours. So I'd say anybody who's wondering whether or not their style is going to fit into ASM, rest assured we have many different styles represented, and people are very supportive about all of them, and they appreciate where they've come from.
That is for sure, Cynthia. And we are hoping that we get people from even more genres, right? The more the merrier. We're so happy. And listen, we're at the top of the hour, and we want to let our panel go. But thank you so much, everybody on our panel, for being here. I so appreciate you guys, Lisa, Amy, Sue, Cynthia, and Rob. So celebrate you guys, and thank you for being here. Thanks to all of you for joining us. And if you guys have any questions, just email me, support@artandsuccess.com. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Pam.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.